It's banana for the minions and my pocket's bread. Hi everybody, it's your favorite Italian shitpost review channel, Game Retard. And today we're doing quite the epic movie review. We're going to be talking about the new Minions movie. I saw it recently, as many of you gentle minions out there have. And I'm just going to be talking about it casually, just going, like, making this unscripted video talking about the new Minions movie. So let's just get into it, I guess. Okay, so like when it comes to like these Illumination movies, I'm not really like the biggest fan of them, which is definitely how a lot of people like feel. It seems like people like genuinely really hate these Illumination films, which I do get why. Like these are very like safe, kind of plain, boring movies, but I don't think they're like so offensive or anything to really consider them like the worst animated movies ever. I just think they're kind of like like they're mediocre, but they're like serviceable movies. I think they're fine for the most part. To be honest, I really don't think Illumination has made a movie that's really impressed me, except for the first Despicable Me, which I genuinely think is a really funny movie. And actually just really well made in general, like it has a good story and all that. So like going into this movie, I didn't really have the biggest expectations, but I was certainly a little optimistic because it is kind of nice to see a new like Despicable Me thing after like what, like 5 years or something. So in preparation, I decided to rewatch the first Minions movie, and I'm gonna be honest, I like hardly remember that movie. I thought it was pretty boring. There wasn't like anything interesting going on with like the characters or like the story. The humor wasn't even that funny. It was a lot of like slapstick, which I think could actually be really funny, but like the slapstick just got really old after a while, and like a lot of it was just really stupid like juvenile minions humor, which I guess like for kids it works, but like if you're like older than like 12 years old, then you're gonna start finding like this movie pretty boring, honestly. So overall, I think Minions 1 is just kind of like a 2.5 out of 5. I think it's a pretty mediocre movie. And like, well, yes, it does have like some cool stuff here and there. Like, I like the '60s setting, although I really wish they had a Vietnam War scene. I think that would be pretty sick. But like the '60s setting is pretty cool. Um, Let me think of some other things I like about this movie. And like, oh yeah, the animation was fine. But I mean, like Illumination always has like fine animation. Again, like nothing like outstanding or really remarkable, but it's fine. It's marketable. It looks cute, I guess. Oh, and finally, there was a Beatles reference I found amusing. Yep, that's about it. Okay, so now let's talk about Minions 2. So I think this movie is an improvement over the original in pretty much every way, just not in any big ways. Overall, I thought it was a decent movie. I just didn't get much out of it, but it was at least entertaining throughout. So, I think the animation's better, which makes sense because the original was 2015 while this movie is 2022. Just overall, the lighting and textures definitely have more detail and definitely pop more than the original. And I think the '70s setting is pretty cool as well. Um, the movie actually debatably goes even further with its setting, including more like music from the time period and like more like different like character designs take more inspiration from the time period, all that sort of stuff. The movie definitely goes for like like this '70s type of style, which I think is cool. I think they could have gone even further with it, but I mean, whatever. I think it's fine for what it is. As for the story, I think it's very scattered. It's very messy. There's a bit too much stuff going on, and like a lot of stuff in this movie feels like distractions from the main plot, which is of course the rise of Gru. Now, obviously, all this stuff makes sense because the movie is mostly focused on minion shenanigans. And if you like minion shenanigans, then boy, do I have a movie for you because there's a lot of that in this movie. And like as somebody who finds that stuff like mildly amusing sometimes, I think the movie kind of did a decent job at like having me interested in all the stupid stuff the minions were doing. Now, what really makes the story like better than the first movie is the stuff with Gru, which I actually really liked. I kind of wish the movie focused a little more on Gru, maybe more on the villain that he teams up with. But overall, I thought like the story was definitely an improvement over the original. Because not only is like all of the minion stuff funnier than the original, but like there is actually like a decent like heart to this movie in the core of all like the stupid stuff, which is the stuff with Gru, which I think is like decent. So overall, I don't actually have much more to say about this movie. I just think it does everything that the original movie does, just slightly better. Like the story, I cared about a little more. I can actually follow it better. The humor, I think, was a little better, although I still didn't find this movie like super funny or anything, but it was fine. And the animation's obviously like better, but that's just a given because it's like what, like 7 years after the original Minions. Yeah, so overall, I like the movie. I think it's a solid improvement over the original, and I had fun watching it in the theater. I don't really have intentions of seeing this again, but for what it was decent. I'm feeling a light 3 out of 5 on this one. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the soundtrack. Mainly just because of how many like names were attached to this thing. Like you have Brockhampton, you have Phoebe Bridgers, you have Saint Vincent. I'm trying to remember who else was. Oh yeah, Thundercat was on here. Tame Impala was on here. Just a lot of like big indie artists. It's really interesting to see all these artists picked for a Minions movie. So overall, the artist selection is pretty dope, honestly. However, the covers the artist did here are very inconsistent. Okay, so overall, I think there's some decent ones. However, a lot of them are either just unremarkable or kind of bad. It's honestly kind of disappointing to see all these great artists hop on this Minions soundtrack and just not really produce great or even really all that good songs to begin with. It's really disappointing. Okay, so the soundtrack is like, I guess it's like a 3 out of 5 or a 2.5. I think it's fine, just not all that special. Now, there's one big exception, which is Rich Minion by Yeet. This song is a banger, certified banger. I'm giving this song a 5 out of 5. I think it's fucking amazing. The beat goes hard. Yeet is just so loyal to Gru and the Minions. Shout out to them. He's just like, like dropping iconic bars, epic jokes. It's great. I mean, it's just classic Yeet. Yeet at his finest. So, shout out to Yeet for making a banger, 5 out of 5. One thing that pisses me off, though, is the fact that Rich Minion was not on the Spotify soundtrack, which is honestly a pretty big L, if you ask me. Like, it was right there. They could have put Rich Minion on the soundtrack, and they didn't. Like, literally the best song made for this movie isn't on the soundtrack. Like, bruh. But wait, there's more. I gotta talk about the IHOP Minions meal. So I had the Bubba banana pancakes. I kind of like them. They had like banana pudding on top. I thought that was kind of interesting, I guess. The pancakes themselves were great. And I also had the Cinnaminions, which were also, decent. However, the real star of the Minions meal was like the drink that they had. I forgot the drink that I ordered. It's like orange juice and like mango or whatever, but it's really good. Trust me, it's good. Like, try it if you ever go to IHOP. So Minions meal, I'm giving like a light 3.5 out of 5. I thought it was pretty good. And to wrap up this stupid Minions video, the movie was okay, the soundtrack was okay, but kind of mid, and then the meal was pretty good. And Yeet is the best rapper of the 2020s so far. Well, except for RXK Nephew, I don't know. Minions got my back. Shout out to Gru and them.